Hello, and welcome to our From Data to Growth webinar. We can't wait to share real stories from the Hi Rasmus community. I'm Amy Cook, BCBA and Community Manager from Hi Rasmus, and we're so excited to have you all here today. We will first go over the agenda. So, today's agenda, we're going to begin with a brief introduction about Hi Rasmus and share a little bit about our story, and then followed by four different organizations that are going to share their innovative ways that they're using our platform. And you can please hold off to have questions until the end. We will have an opportunity for you to ask our panelists questions, as well as we'll have some of our Hi Rasmus team here as well. So before I hand it over to our fabulous community members and panelists, I want to share a little bit more about Hi Rasmus. Hi Rasmus is an ABA clinical software company that was inspired by our founder's son, Rasmus, who was diagnosed with autism early on in his life. Our goal is to help deliver the highest quality behavioral therapy services to 1 million children with autism by helping the people who help them: behavior analysts, techs, teachers, parents, clinical directors, and all of you that are here today. We provide the best clinical platform so you can keep the focus on the child in front of you. We will now kick things off with Sean Yocum, the founder of Hickory Learning Group, to share about caregiver competency and AI-generated staff feedback. So I'll go ahead and stop my screen share. Thank you, Sean, for being here today. I'll let you take over.
That sounds good to me. Hey guys, hello, welcome. Amy, Hi Rasmus team, thanks for having me. Other panelists, I'm looking forward to hearing all the wonderful and cool stuff that you are doing with the platform. First and foremost, you know, want to just say hi to everybody. I'm Sean Yocum. I'm the CEO of Hickory Learning Group. I also host a podcast called the Rad and Bad Podcast. I'm very excited to be here today to talk to you about something that our organization is working on and we find incredibly important that we think is shaping the potential future of ABA, and that's through caregiver competency and also using AI to deliver objective feedback. Look, in our field, we often celebrate client progress, okay? And great, rightfully so. But a lot of times we don't look at actually the unsung heroes, right? The caregivers, right? Their ability to be able to implement strategies in that natural environment is absolutely paramount to sustain success. And the mission with Hickory Learning Group is we believe that empowering these caregivers isn't just a component of the service, it's the actual primary outcome. And achieving that level of objective, measurable caregiver competency, that's where we're attempting to push the boundaries. So with this presentation today, we're going to pull back how we're utilizing the Hi Rasmus platform to do this with two key areas. And the first being how we objectively measure caregiver competency beyond just client goals, leading to that true independence. And then secondly, how we then apply cutting edge technology that Hi Rasmus uses with generative AI to be able to then provide the most precise, unbiased feedback to parents and our own staff, ensuring they're consistently operating at their peak. All right, so let's dive into this. All right, so first and foremost, for too long, I think the success of ABA, and this is, again, my opinion, the success of ABA services has been singularly focused on client progress data. So did the challenging behavior decrease? Did the skill acquisition increase? And yes, it's absolutely vital, but I don't think it tells the whole story. What about the ability of the support system, right? The caregivers to maintain and generalize those skills when we're not there? That to me is the ultimate measure of effective intervention. So that's why with Hickory Learning Group, what we developed is this assessment called the GAIN, which stands for Generalization Assessment for Independence and Nurturing. And think of this as kind of like a way of assessing confidence and competence of the caregiver, right? So it's a standardized assessment designed to specifically evaluate the generalization of skills learned in direct ABA therapy to parent-led implementation. And we got two key sections that we look at. The first one is a parent questionnaire. So this is where we gauge the caregivers, what we call perceived independence and their perceived confidence in implementing the learned skills. It's crucial to understanding their subjective experience, because if they're feeling empowered or overwhelmed, we're going to adjust our support systems, right? The confidence is a vital piece because that leads to then social validity. So if they're sitting there and thinking, oh, wow, I got this. This is great. The interventions are working perfectly. That's an important metric. Then we have what we call the BCBA scoring section. And this is where the objective lens comes in. So when we're looking at that objective lens, we want to look at what is the BCBA observing with those same questions that the parent is answering. So we're looking at, okay, what's the observed generalization of those specific behavioral markers? So we're looking at competence in real time and in natural environments. Are they correctly applying the prompting hierarchy? Is reinforcement delivered effectively? Is data being collected accurately in the everyday situations? So when we combine these two perspectives, we're able to then assess not only social validity, so do they feel the services are meaningful, but also the caregiver's perceived confidence in their ability to provide the support, as well as demonstrated competence in providing the support. Now, you're probably all sitting here asking, okay, Sean, this sounds like hot air. Why is this so important, right? Because I truly believe that these outcomes are directly linked to what the ultimate goal of ABA therapy is. And that's titration and graduation of ABA services, not keeping kids in ABA therapy, right? So we're not just aiming for client progress within sessions, we're aiming for a future where support can be faded, not because the client's progress has plateaued, but because their parents and caregivers are now fully equipped to support them effectively in the least restrictive environment. And that's what we think is actually true and sustainable impact. Think about it. Every organization is dealing with provider shortages, correct? A lot of us, we're sitting here scrambling to try to find people to work. We're scrambling, trying to find BCBAs. So if the answer to long-term progress, generalization, and maintenance is getting the parents involved, that's who they're spending majority of the time with. So if we can train caregivers to a competency level of RBTs or BCBAs, I think that's the true outcome to seeing success within the field. So beyond this assessment, what we do is we embed the crucial metrics into our services. We use interval data recording on the Hi Rasmus platform on their actual involvement in sessions. So like taking partial interval data on, are they participating with the RBT in session? And we empower the RBTs to collect this data. We then are looking at that and tracking parental behavioral change after corrective feedback. So is their behavior changing when we provide the feedback, or is it staying consistent? We're looking at, okay, is behavioral maintenance happening when we're providing positive feedback? So all of these things lead to, okay, procedural integrity. They lead to, okay, behavioral observations. And then we also provide regular social validity services, surveys, all within the Hi Rasmus platform. So all of this is then what we believe the true measure of values-based care, defines the true purpose of why we're doing this in the field. So this is kind of an example of what it looks like on our platform. So we have these sample questions, and it's a rating scale. It's just a 0 to 5, with 0 being, yeah, I need help, and a 5 being like, oh, I got this. I have this skill. And these are just what we assess. And then we have the actual BCBA answer the same thing that says, the parent can prompt the child to use functional communication strategies. The parent can effectively reinforce appropriate communication attempts. And what we do is we then look at that data and we see if there's standard deviation. We look at that number. We look to see how close the scores are. And once those scores are matching and we're all at 5s, we can then say, guess what? Based on the data, you got this. You don't need us. You are empowered to now help your son or daughter, right? I think one of the big challenges with this is getting the buy-in from families. We're testing this with a lot of families right now. We've gotten a lot of great feedback with it. The RBTs absolutely love it because we're basically holding families accountable, and we're basically making sure that families are active participants in their child's therapy journey. So next section, AI, right? A lot of people are afraid of AI. I'm not. Fully embrace it, love it. I think AI is the future, right? So how do we use Hi Rasmus's cutting edge technology to ensure our own team is delivering at the highest level, right? We basically use AI to provide effective feedback and objective feedback, because what it does is, I can speak for myself as a case supervisor. I got time constraints. I got a cognitive load of managing many supervisees. I have a risk of human bias when I might be implementing competency checks because maybe I paired better with a certain therapist and not another therapist, right? So we've all been there. So trying to write a detailed performance review after a crazy week, subjectivity can creep in. So if you can use generative AI to basically take the data that you're taking, so think about putting in a bunch of different skills that you want your RBT or parent to do, you rate it, let's say accurate implementation of an SD, and there's a rating and it's a 0 to a 5, right? Or effective delivery of reinforcement, they score a 4. Accurate data collection, they score a 1, right? Appropriate rapport building, they score a 2. Procedural integrity of the behavior reduction plan, they score a 0. It looks terrible, right? What happens is you take the objective data, and if you feed the correct prompts into generative AI, you can basically have AI analyze everything, give you a clear cut picture of these are the skills that are progressing in the right direction, these are the skills that are not. And now you can't argue with the data. And what I did was I got in this presentation, and feel free, you can email me and I can give you all of these AI prompts. These are some of the prompts we use on the back end. And it's crucial for how you write these prompts, because if you want AI to do what you want it to do, you have to feed it the correct information. So big one I use is please act as a neutral data analyst. You are neutral. Your task is to review this data and provide objective feedback, focusing solely on the overall direction of progress for each target. Do not perform detailed numerical calculations, statistical analyses, or provide subjective interpretations. Just look at the data, give me the report, right? Now, the important thing with this too, with all these AI prompts, is to basically understand that you still have to read what it's putting out, right? And I think a lot of people who use AI, you see it on LinkedIn. They just copy what they put in the chat GPT, they put it out. There's some weird emojis, and I don't even know what the dash is, the M dash is, and all. You can tell, right? You can basically tell. The point of AI is, yeah, everybody uses it. Everybody is going to use it. The key is, how do you use it? And are you using it as a crutch, or are you using it as a tool? It shouldn't be used as a crutch. It should be used to, okay, give me the information, let me read this information, and let me do my own IOA on that information to make sure this is exactly what I would be providing to this individual, right? So we use this to give objective feedback. It basically takes the bias out of it, right? And I have some examples here. So this is some of the AI prompts that we'll use, and this is actually what it fed during one of the supervision sessions with us. I basically created a prompt that said, "Hey, start your feedback session by giving thanks for being an active participant and being here." So almost like a compliment sandwich. Designed it in the AI prompt to do it. And then it basically analyzed all the things that the person was doing well. It analyzed all the things that the person needed some help with. And then I actually embedded, like, give me some behavior analytic suggestions based on that you would utilize. And again, you still have to check it because AI is machine learning, and it's going to learn based off the information that you input into it. So in summary, Hickory Learning Group, we're constantly pushing the envelope to deliver the most comprehensive, objective, and effective ABI services possible. We got these two approaches. We're using the gain assessment, and we're using generative AI to our advantage, right? We think these strategies enable us not only to demonstrate incredible client progress, but also to achieve what I think is the overarching mission in our field, and that's to move towards values-based care, right? That's truly going to lead to higher quality of life in the least restrictive environment. And we're committed to leading the way in integrating, cutting edge science that Hi Rasmus is able to provide as a platform, and that technology to elevate the field. So again, thank you for allowing me to participate. If you scan the QR code, you'll see some cool stuff. Feel free to email me if you would like the slideshow with some of the prompts, and I look forward to the QA later.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sean. I loved seeing your gain assessment and how you guys are using AI, and really just how you are helping your team and helping families. So that was awesome. Up next, we're going to have Beth, the Vice President of Clinical Operations for Jigsaw Developmental Services. talking about tracking staff and scorecard data. Thank you for being here. Beth, I'll let you go ahead and share your screen and introduce yourself.
Sure. Thank you so much, Amy. I appreciate you sharing all your work, Sean. I feel like we're all going to leave here with a really long to-do list because we're so inspired by the many different ways that we can use the system. And so I appreciate having the opportunity today to kind of share all of our innovative ideas with each other. So as Amy said, I am the Vice President of Clinical Operations at Jigsaw Developmental Services. And today I'll be sharing with you a little bit about how we have integrated Hi Rasmus into our performance management system, specifically using staff profiles and scorecards to support staff growth and improve the quality of our services. So a little bit, oh, can you see my screen there? Did the slide work? Let me see. Okay. So a little bit about us, just for context, we are a small, locally owned and operated organization in Phoenix, Arizona, and we provide ABA services in homes, school, community, and center-based settings. So is my screen white? Is the slide white? It is? Oh my goodness. Okay, hold on one second. I don't know why. Do you mind if I stop
We
sharing
can,
and
yeah, we can see our goals. Is that what you're,
yeah. Yeah, okay.
slide
I
three?
think it's working. Sorry. It was white on my screen. Okay, so like many of you, we were looking for a better way to manage supervision and feedback, not just administratively, but really trying to create a tool for real growth. So we, from the staff lens, I think Sean made a great point. When we look at value-based care and outcome measures, we tend to be so focused on client outcomes that we forget about our staff contributions and the contributions of the family. So Jigsaw had 4 key goals when we started using Hi Rasmus. We wanted to help our staff grow by giving them clear, trackable feedback. We wanted to, of course, like most of us, ensure consistent, high-quality service delivery and documentation. We really wanted to make performance conversations easier and more objective. And really, we wanted to foster transparency and collaboration across our teams. So for us, these goals were not just about compliance. They were really about creating a culture of shared accountability and professional development. So, oh my goodness, every time I,
You know what? It shows up. It goes white for a second
okay,
and then it shows up.
okay.
So
Just,
we can see
yeah,
you.
bear with me as I switch each time. So as we all know, there are so many platforms out there that we can choose from, but for us, Hi Rasmus really stood out just because of how customizable and clinically integrated it is. So we have the ability to build our own programs, create our own data collection tools that really align with our model and our values. And the staff profiles for us have really proved to be a centralized place that's helped us move away from managing information across, 3 or 4 external systems and into more efficient integrated workflows. I'll show some examples of the way that we use our programming today, but we have really appreciated the ability to write notes, create session prototypes, pull that data directly into documentation, collect signatures from various staff members from our team. And it's helped us really ultimately better support our staff growth. So it wasn't a huge shift in maybe the workflow that we're all used to implementing, but I think Hi Rasmus has really enhanced what we're already doing and helped to make it more efficient. Okay, so for our staff profiles, when we look at creating those, each behavior technician has an individual staff profile that is set up during their onboarding, and we immediately connect them to the BCBAs that are going to be supporting them out in the field, as well as our training team. And then we help to build out their profile by uploading custom programs, like both of the scorecards that I'll share with you today. And then we create several performance-based sessions or prototypes that can be run to collect data on relevant programming for that specific performance area. It's been really nice to have the library feature because we upload all these programs and kind of standardize it for all of our staff based on role. And it has helped the staff know what we're tracking, right? They have a clear picture of how they're doing, what goals they have, what we're looking at from them. And it's really helped with setting expectations and keeping consistency across team members and supervisors. Um, the staff profile has, really become a one-stop hub for tracking, training, session quality, and ultimately their growth within their role over time. So we have taken this traditional idea of a scorecard and kind of like Sean did in his parent one, we have the ability to create these custom prompt levels with weighted scores on the back end. And that's really helped us, especially in the area of performance management, because the goal may not always be to get 100, but we want to get you close to proficient. So in this example here, we're looking at an in-field performance scorecard. So the way this looks kind of in implementation is that our BCBAs run these scorecards during their supervision visit out in the field. And we have picked 5, brief but, heavily important areas of performance that really have aligned with our values. And aside from increased clinical competency, we've defined just things that we want to see across the board, right? No matter if you're new, no matter if you're senior. And those things are just the quality, of interaction with the client, as an example, their overall responsiveness to feedback in the moment, their communication with the family, the people on our team, and then overall professionalism in how they're delivering the service. So one other way that we leverage scorecards to measure and improve quality is through our session note quality scorecards. So if you are familiar with CASP's recently published session note templates for the CPT codes, we have kind of taken those best practice expectations and created a scorecard that we actually use to audit session notes on a regular basis. This has allowed us to deliver staff feedback, create specialized training if there's kind of trending areas of difficulty. And we even, add phase change lines when we do implement an intervention or support our staff, and kind of help really see if our training was effective, and if their scores after the delivery of that were increased. So we are really able to customize these programs by staff level or focus area, which has for us made it scalable but still meaningful. Is it still white? Okay. So after the scorecards are scored, the clinician, this is kind of my favorite part, they complete a session note that goes along with that data and that performance monitoring session. So we've created that, again, that session prototype on the back end where you have certain programs that you want to be run with certain session note fields that you expect whoever is running that session to complete. So this is where we document that specific feedback for the staff, and then we're able to share that with them for review and signature. So one of the most impactful features for us within this workflow has been the signature request and the ability to comment on the note. This has created a lot more transparency for us. It's allowed the feedback to be immediate, visible, and archived. So if they want to reference that later, they have access to their own staff profile, and they can even self-monitor. So having that data and feedback in one place has, I've seen huge changes in reducing just redundancy and decrease that typical, follow-up tasks associated with documenting feedback, making sure it was email, ensuring that it was received, and then kind of storing it in the right place. So this has helped really centralize that for us. Oh my goodness, technology giving me a challenge. So of course, collecting data is only useful if we do something with it. We know this in our field. We can kind of nerd out behind the screens, but what are you going to do with all that information? So we took it a step further beyond the scorecards and the staff profiles, and we actually built out some really cool reporting tools to help look at trends over time. And so we've really thought of this as a timeline that starts with observation but ends in opportunity for our staff. So we take that cumulative scorecard data and we use that during our quarterly reviews, during our connect meetings with the staff. And this has helped ensure that those evaluations are objective, that they're aligned with day-to-day work, and they're not just a one-time feedback session. And I think performance management for a lot of people can be scary, especially in the RBT role. And this, this system that we've kind of built out in Hi Rasmus has helped shift the conversation away from just corrective feedback and really into, how are you growing and how can we help you develop goals, which has really resonated with the people on our team. So we've seen a number of benefits since implementing the scorecards and really using the staff profiles and all that they have to offer in general. I have found that feedback as part of our supervision is more consistent and it's more purposeful. I have the ability to kind of generate, how many supervision sessions have we had and how many scorecards have we done? And that gives us a good idea of our sample size and helps us, feel confident that we are sampling, consistently. The RBT's kind of number one thing that they love about this is that they really understand what is being expected of them beyond just the RBT task list, beyond their job description, but at our organization, right? Are they aligning still with our values? Are we, supporting them and growing in their role? So it's really helped improve, communication between staff and supervisors, but also other key members of our leadership team that are not in the nitty-gritty of the system. We were able to provide a high-level overview because we have that aggregate data and those reports. And so everybody has visibility, which has helped, again, just support, that value-driven approach. Our performance management system has become far more efficient and organized, which has saved us time. And if you're a clinician, you know that our time is very valuable. And the scorecards for us really, they're not just about catching errors or proving that we're doing a good job. We want to capture progress. We have been able to, do a much better job at celebrating, those wins and what's working for our staff, but also provide coaching where needed, and help really give them a roadmap for growing in their role and beyond. So thank you so much for allowing me to share just a little snippet of how we use Hi Rasmus. Kind of like Sean said, I'm happy to connect further outside of this webinar or stick around in the Q&A to answer questions. So I appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Beth. Those scorecards are awesome. And I know everyone's going to leave this webinar with so many great ideas. So next up, we will have Rebecca, the CEO of 7 Dimensions, sharing how to tie staff profiles into promotions and bonuses. Thank you for being here, Rebecca. I'll let you take it over.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Beth, that was phenomenal. I think we need to be friends. Just straight to the point. I love auditing. I love OBM, self-professed super nerd in OBM. Absolutely love it. I'm Rebecca Urbano Powell. I'm the CEO of 7 Dimensions Behavioral Health. We are an ABA provider in Colorado. We are an Ascent-based practitioner. We do both day treatment, which is an alternative school placement for kids whose behaviors don't allow them to attend public school, as well as an ABA center. And we also push into schools in Colorado after we got a law passed to get medically necessary treatment in schools out here. And so we are in Evergreen, which is about 30 minutes outside of Denver in the mountains, and then also up in Fort Collins, which is northern Colorado. And so we're serving families that would have to have like an hour-long drive to a provider if we weren't up in Evergreen. And that was our purpose. And like Sean, all about quality and making sure that, the services that we provide are meaningful and impactful and are generalizing, because what's the point if they aren't maintaining the skills outside of therapy, right? And so a lot of that is what we focus on, is looking at our employee implementation fidelity and really investing in our team, because that is what's going to produce the best outcomes for our patients. And so I'm going to go over how we're using Hi Rasmus. We've been doing scorecards, like Beth has mentioned, since we opened in 2018, and they earn performance-based bonuses based on their scorecard metrics with us for every position that they're in. And we also determine when they're ready for promotions based on those scorecard metrics. And we have a pipeline for every role that has those metrics spelled out and shared with the staff so that they can see what the expectations are at all times. They can log in and access their own data in Hi Rasmus, which we love. And it's really streamlined our efforts and has cut down on the time it takes me as the director to compile their data for scorecards. It's reduced by like at least 67%, if not more, as I'm figuring out how to become more and more proficient in this system. So the things I'm going to show you guys today that we've done here is we have started moving our RBT training and onboarding into Hi Rasmus. We have fidelity checklists in there for every type of position, as well as employee feedback forms. We do bi-directional feedback in our facility. We'll look at the promotions and how we have generated reports to automate the data analysis for those reports that the staff can access directly themselves. And then we've also rolled out recently a staff patient pairing kind of module, if you will, where we're looking at appropriateness of where the new hire skills are compared to the classification of that client profile that we're serving to ensure reduction of having to make staff changes because it wasn't the right fit or that person wasn't quite ready. All right, so the first thing we're going to look at is employee data. And so we have a curriculum library just for different position data. And so looking at the RBTs, these are the different checklists that we have made for them. So they start out with a training checklist, which is in our employee training section of the library. And then once they pass that training checklist, they move into the fidelity checklist because those fidelity checklists are directly tied towards scorecards. We don't want their training period to count against their bonus metrics. So that is calculated separately. These automatically pull into scorecard reports that we've generated in Hi Rasmus, as well as their promotion reports. And we also have a probation report that shows when they're ready to exit probation. And so again, like the position specific fidelity checklists are aligned with every single role in this company. The scores are tied to pay for performance bonuses that they can earn quarterly, and it helps us determine when they're ready for promotion. So it's very objective. And so within the library, we have the option to create skill acquisition templates to measure our staff performance. One of those areas being this fidelity checklist. And you've got, just like the patient specific templates, your instructions tab, which we've taken advantage of to make it very clear to our staff what it is we're measuring and how we're measuring it. We use a plus minus system for fidelity once they're out of training. In the training checklist stage, we are using the weighted checklist like Beth described, as well, like requires prompting, etc. But once they've passed that training checklist, we are measuring, are they implementing with fidelity, yes or no, only, so it's incredibly objective. And then we also have the data recording, etc., which you can set up so that it will auto master targets or metrics as they're meeting that proficiency level that you want. So for us, it's 3 months mastery and maintenance, and then they're ready for the next promotion. All right, so for each role, we have individualized what those performance metrics should be as a leadership team. We sat down and broke out what would an RBT1 do versus an RBT2 versus an RBT3 versus a lead RBT. And what do we want that growth to look like? And what do we want that skill expansion to look like? Because we're training all of our RBTs as if they're going to become BCBAs, because it just means higher quality RBTs and better patient outcomes. There's no negative to overtraining your staff. And so one of the things I love about this is that our employees get to log directly into their profiles and see their performance over time. You can see this RBT has some skills marked as closed, meaning that they've already met mastery and maintenance for that specific metric, and they're now working towards mastery of the other acquisition targets that are remaining. And so once this RBT masters and meets that maintenance criteria on this fidelity form, they're going to be eligible to promote into the next RBT level using the next fidelity form. So within our company, the way it works is that RBT needs to master and maintain their current form. So like if they're an RBT1, they have to master that for 2 months and maintain for another month. And then they can move onto the RBT2 fidelity checklist for their 1 month training period. And once they master those targets over 1 month, they promote into the RBT2 position. And then there's 2 more months where we're hopefully measuring maintenance over that time. And then they'll be ready to move to RBT3 metrics and start that training period. And so one of the things that we've really enjoyed about Hi Rasmus is the ability to create training libraries for our employees for the onboarding and ongoing training assignments. So for our staff, we're setting up onboarding training across 6 different days where it's linked, as you can see in the instructions here, links to video clips, SOPs, any material that they need, and also a quiz for them to pass this day. So they have to get an 80% post watching the video recordings, meeting with the trainers, and doing their in-person metrics, which we have as targets on this day. And so we're scoring the whole day over the period of time it takes them to complete those metrics. And then it pulls directly into their probation report, which I run for them every single week. So we can give them a report on how they're progressing towards passing probation. Our probationary period isn't time-based, it's performance-based. And we've had somebody pass probation within 60 days, which is pretty impressive. And that means they're now an RBT1 and enrolled in our pay for performance program. And so in addition to programs to measure fidelity and training metrics, you can also, like I said, create reports to compile your performance metrics to assist you in determining when that employee is ready for a promotion. It also helps you identify areas that might need more attention and support or ongoing training. And so I really love the fact that I can share this report directly in the system by requesting a signature. And so I know that they're reading it and that they're getting their feedback. And it's stored in that folder over time, so I can see their progression over time, which is wonderful. And again, they can directly log in. They know exactly where they're at. They know what they need to work on. And it's really streamlined that communication. It's also a great way for us to measure the staff that are really hungry to promote because they are seeking out more opportunities when they're seeing their data and their feedback. And those are the people that are advancing very rapidly into higher level positions, which is really great. And so one of the most recent additions that we've been rolling out, it's still in the very early stages, but as somebody that's been doing scheduling for 20 years, it's very painful, and everybody knows this. And staff matching and pairing is very difficult, especially when you have a new hire that you don't know very well. And so something that we decided to roll out, we're already using a very objective OBM hiring system where we are measuring specific metrics throughout the hiring period. We know what those critical skills are, which we've classified as must-haves in order to be hired, et cetera. And so now what we're doing is taking those scores and implementing them into a staff client pairing program where we've created a color coding system. We've got green, yellow, orange, and red, red being the most complex of our cases because we serve 0 to 21, and we are taking severe behavior patients that can't attend public school and that are being discharged from like an inpatient hospital program. And so being able to look at this client or this applicant's ABA experience, what profiles they've worked with before. And then we also do a tech fluency assessment with them during the hiring period where it's really basic technology. But what we found is if somebody struggles with utilizing technology, they're going to have a hard time managing a session, right? And so being able to assess things like, we want you to send us a Google Calendar invitation for your interview date and time with the Google Meeting link, just in case we have to move to remote. Because Colorado weather, you never know. We also have them send their references in a fake audit note with fake session data via Google Drive. We're looking to see, can they share a file from Google Drive appropriately? So basic technology, right? We use that as our starting point to determine what color coding of clients we can put them in training overlaps with. Because we want to stretch them a little bit, but not too extreme to where, they're going to get frustrated, especially if they're brand new to the industry. We don't want to throw them right on a really complex red colored client immediately. We might want to stick with the greens and yellows if they're brand new to the industry. And then we are doing a secondary probe. So once they've completed about 2 weeks of onboarding and some client overlaps, we're re-looking at data. So we're looking at their fidelity scores on implementing the behavior plans. We're looking at their accuracy on the training checklist. And then we do tech assessments with them every week to help them become proficient in Hi Rasmus. So that way their sessions can be focused on the clients directly. So we're looking at those scores to kind of re-baseline where are they at. And that helps us pair them for ongoing client overlaps. And ideally, by the end of the 4th week, we'll be able to identify client assignments based on additional probes. And then we're going to reprobe after they pass their training checklist and just see how they do quarterly ongoing. And then we're going to be reevaluating our clients as well. Our client metrics are also very objective and based on behavior severity scoring that we have created internally, and also looking at regression that may or may not occur with the addition of new staff. So we're looking at like the critical skills. Are those critical skills like functional communication, assent, are those regressing when you put a new person on the team? Or is that client able to tolerate that change? And so that is how we're classifying our clients, and we're going to be rechecking that every quarter and doing that with our ongoing staff as well, which we will use in our scheduling periods that we do twice a year to determine appropriate fit. All right, and then we also are doing feedback forms. Like I talked about, we believe in bidirectional feedback. And so the RBTs give BCBA's feedback, the BCBAs give me feedback. I give the BCBA's feedback. That's how it works on our team. And it, again, very objective, just looking at are their needs being met? And so we are doing that weighted scale of a 1 to 5, 5 being you agree the most with that statement. The RBTs are giving their BCBAs at least monthly feedback for every BCBA that they're working with. And this is part of the BCBA scorecard. We also have a parent version where the parents are able to give their RBTs and BCBAs similar feedback, which is also part of the scorecard. All right, that's all I have for today. And I, again, will stick around. Happy to answer any questions you guys might have during Q&A.
Love that, Rebecca. I mean, we talk about making data-driven decisions for our clients, and I think we talk about it with our teams as well, but do we always see it that clear and objective? So just such an awesome way to help your team grow. So thanks for sharing that. Last but not least, we will have B from Expanding Potentials is going to talk about building a staff training, mentorship culture, and client profiles. I thank you so much for being here, B. I'll go ahead and hand it over to you.
Thank you so much for having me. Sorry, I'm losing my voice a little bit today, so I'm going to try to get through this. I wanted to talk today. There's been so many great presentations and ideas so far this morning about how to use the data within Hi Rasmus. I actually want to talk about the flexibility of the platform, not just creating our fidelity checks, but as we continue to grow, we have opportunities to collaborate with agencies, with different specialists, with other potential stakeholders that also are in part with care to beneficiaries we serve or facilities that we serve. So I want to talk about how we can use the flexibility of the Hi Rasmus platform to do that so that we can have better communication and continue to grow as a profession. Right? My name is Kuereine Gray. B stands for Brandy. It's hard for a lot of kids to see. My signature line on my email is how people started calling me B. Everyone calls me B. It's totally fine. I started Expanding Potentials in 2010, and I focus on neurodiverse affirming care for specifically complex needs individuals across the lifespan for direct and consultative services outside of DC. I do consulting with other small practices now, as well as provide internship programs for interns who are studying behavior analysis in local universities. I provide public speaking on trauma assumed care, and most recently I became a reflective supervisor. So I work on providing reflective supervision to people so that we can decrease staff burnout and work on parallel processing for how we provide services. Today, I want to walk through how we can create staff profiles for agencies, create client profiles for agencies, edit those permissions and notifications. I don't know that we'll have time to get into programming and tracking, but then creating that consulting notes so that we can really have avenues for being accountable with our intervention changes, especially when there are so many people in place that we really need to be able to track all of the parts that are moving. If you're looking at how this relates to our task list, for I2 and I5, we have to look at how we apply and establish supervisory relationships, those teaching and collaborative relationships with clear expectations. We have to look at how we're practicing, we're modeling communication, we're modeling feedback, we're providing feedback, we're giving reinforcement, and we're decreasing response effort for other agencies that are working with us and other stakeholders. Now, here's my caveat and full disclosure. I do not have enough time today to walk you through every step to do this, but my hope is that I can show you how the platform can be used so it will give you great ideas and in ways that you may not have thought about to use the platform in the future. Okay, we'll start with setting up roles. Some things that you may not be aware of is when you log in, you can go through your left-hand side, you'll go down to your settings, you'll look at your user privileges, and you'll start with an array of user privileges across the top. You have your manager, your supervisor, your behavior analyst, your behavior technician. Those are going to be your base roles. But under that, you have an add a privileged role. You can select any base role. So say you need to add the CEO for an agency that you're collaborating with, and they really do need more privileges to start. So you would start with a base role of supervisor, which is why that is circled. And then your role label would be their title. When they're logging into the system, they're signing any notes, you're tracking their engagement with Hi Rasmus. You can then open up every permission, and that CEO doesn't really need to have the ability to edit programs. So I can uncheck that box. But I do need them to be able to review all files, to add files, to take away files if they've added something incorrectly or there's an error with the upload. So from there, you need to tailor the permissions for all of your staff. That's if you're using it for an agency that you're collaborating and consulting with. I also provide care through state funding. So like I'm looking at home health staff that I come in and train, home-based nursing staff that I come in and train. So I might do programming checks for fidelity on different programming that we've set up through that state agency for authorized care, but the staff are logging in and they may have their permissions set up as a behavior technician as their base role, but then it's changed because I really don't need them tracking their progress if I'm looking at their fidelity checks and the stakeholder that should be responsible for looking at the progress is the beneficiary's parent or the case manager through the state agency. So you can toggle that on and off as you like. I'm then going to go in and instead of adding a client as a beneficiary or a patient, a specific person, I can add the agency. And when you add a client, I have some things blocked out for confidentiality, but consider splitting the name of the agency. So for example, if you have Test Consulting, ABC Consulting, for your first name, you'd put ABC, for your last name, you'd put Consulting. And then right under that, you have preferred name, put the whole thing. And that's how it'll show up in your list of clients. So very easy to add. You don't have to go through and add all of the things, but because Hi Rasmus has the ability that you add and edit what client information you have on your profile when you're opening up, you can edit those lists of what's important to know for that agency. Like, who are your points of contact for different types of work? So we have our role set up, we have our client and agency set up. Now, if you look in, you'll have this toolbar across the top of your client. You need to set up your access. This is when we invite agency users with the roles that we set up. So you should have, if you click on access, you have email. You're going to put your point of contact's email down. And this is when all of those user roles that we created will populate and it'll connect in the system so that they only have those permissions that you've already established. And then we'll invite the user, and when they log in, they will have access to all of the things that we've set up for them. based on the type of relationship that we have outlined in our contracts. The last thing, because I think we are getting close to time, is it's really important for us to establish that effective communication. And Hi Rasmus has it set up so that we actually can go in and tailor our session notes. We can start creating, if we go through our menu, we go through our settings, our templates and notes, we can create new notes to track things that align with our collaboration goals, our agency goals, our shared values, and any intervention goals that we have established, why we're actually collaborating with these groups. Just as an example, I do have up here, we have a combination of tables where you would close out the session and then you can edit the table. And we have smart tags or custom fields. So you can add, for example, if your custom field for here, I have like consulting provision 3 is the name of that custom field. It is a checkbox, so it will automatically put in anything that I click, and you can allow for multiple selection activity or multiple selections for this part of the note. So I'm writing for this agency, am I providing direct clinical services to them at this time? Am I working on their learning systems with them, or am I creating systems for them? This is just an example of how you can use a smart field. I also have, because I do use AI when I'm meeting with agencies virtually, it allows me to be more present in the moment. I can spend more time jotting notes and actually engaging with the people and helping to troubleshoot. And I can rely on AI to provide a transcription. However, AI misses things. It is really important. It misses things. It also misses if you have multiple speakers because it struggles to connect who's talking at what time, and it can miss things with dialect. So it's really important that we review that for not only accuracy, but cohesion to make sure that what happened is what's reflected in our notes. And then if you are doing any sort of recording and you have permissions to do that with the agencies that you're working with, you can also add in a smart field that it will allow you to drop in a link to your recording. So that's what I have for today. Thank you so much for everyone being here. I really do agree with this one quote, when one of us shines, all of us shine. So the more we continue to build up this field, the more that we get excited about spreading this knowledge, the more we are just building up the strength and abilities of everyone around us. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you
And
so much, B. I didn't mean to cut you off. Were you going to say one other thing?
okay. Nope, that was it.
You're all good. Okay. Well, thank you so much for showing off the flexibility of Hi Rasmus with your innovative ideas to be able to work with, whether it be consulting for other organizations, or if you are one organization, but maybe you have some external partnerships or somebody else that needs to be able to view just certain aspects. So awesome. So many great ideas. I can't thank all of our panelists enough. We're now going to open it up for questions. So whether you have a question for one of our panelists, or if it's more specific to Hi Rasmus, we also do have Dr. Kate Davis and Jamie Mills from our team here. So you guys can go ahead and put any questions you have in the chat. And I'm going to share my screen real quick so I can't see the chat if anyone wants to help me out for just a minute.
Hi, Courtney. I see you're here.
Okay. Are any questions popping up in the chat yet?
We've gotten a lot of questions about the recording. So I don't know if you want to speak to that.
Yes, all registrants will receive the recording. It goes out in a newsletter typically the day of, so it should go out this afternoon, if not 24 hours. And then you can also always find our recorded webinars on our YouTube channel as well.
Courtney, I would love to meet with you to workshop some of these.
Unfortunately, we don't have CEUs for this webinar, but we do July 16th. We will have a free CEU on our new High Fives curriculum if you want to join for that. Okay, well, if we don't have any questions, I'll just go ahead and say if you want to learn more, you can check out our website and book a demo to see how our platform can help you. You can also connect with us on social media and stay up to date with our latest webinars and free resources. And I hope everyone has a great day. Thank you for joining us to learn and grow together. And thank you so much to all of our fantastic panelists. This was great. Thank you all.